Imagine getting up every day full of energy as if you were in your 20s again. What would that be like? What would it be worth to you? What is your health worth to you? Think about it. Your health isn't everything, but without it, everything else is nothing. And yet, too many of us are taking it for granted until something goes wrong. And no one wakes up hoping to be diagnosed with a disease or chronic illness. And yet, we've never been taught how to be proactive in our health through our school or public health. As a registered health coach and integrative health practitioner, I believe it's time this information is made available to everyone. Combining new knowledge around your health and the ability to do my functional medicine lab tests in the comfort of your own home will allow you to optimize your health for today and all your tomorrows. Don't wait for your wake-up call. Welcome back to another episode of the Don't Wait for Your Wake-Up Call podcast. I am here with Dr. Pat Boulougne. Welcome, Dr. Pat.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being here, and I am happy to participate 150%. Thank you.
I'm excited to have you on the show because, as we've already discussed, we speak the same language, and you are a doctor of functional medicine. And just having my audience hear my message or the same message from somebody else who is a doctor of functional medicine, because I'm not a doctor, I'm a health practitioner, is a great opportunity, because sometimes we need to hear things more than once and we, absorb what we're able to absorb in the moment that we're ready for it. So I'm excited for you to share. So just introducing you to the audience, as I've said, you are a doctor of functional medicine and a life strategist. You're also a speaker, international best-selling author, and the founder and CEO of Health Team Network, a company that is dedicated to skyrocketing your health and mindset. Dr. Pat is a coach with a mentor's heart for executives, entrepreneurs, and business owners who achieve their greatest goals in less time. And that's paramount to them, right? So I love the work that you're doing. And I would love for you to just share your story and what brought you to this work, because there's always a story.
Oh, gosh. I mean, there's a lot of little bits and pieces of the puzzle that fit in. It's like when I was a kid, I used to go out purposely with ice cream, and eat a popsicle in the dead of winter because I had this theory when I was 8 years old or something like that, that I wouldn't be cold if I ate something cold. And so, and it worked. And one of the reasons why it worked is because when you ate, even though you would draw more energy to your gut, when you ate something, it would stimulate the circulation, and then the energy would go towards your, stomach, and I never knew why that was then,
Right.
And then, I always played the nurse, never, 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 or the patient. Never,
Right.
never, never, never. But I always played the doctor. And from, the time that I was a kid and played the doctor, we played, I was always, I never had anyone die on me, and, and everyone got better. And it's always really glad to see people's progressions for whatever their health goals were. And a friend of mine, one time came by. We used to go out for in the fall time to go get cider and donuts. It's just like you always get sick eating that stuff. But one year when he came to get me, instead of meeting me someplace, he came and picked me up, and he just gave me an application to go to chiropractic school. And so he's, like he goes, "What are you gonna do? You're gonna work in," because I was thinking about I had like two classes like in a row for for a business administration for a BA. And I hated it. My economics teacher, I should never have taken economics first. It was so boring. And I'm thinking, I can't do this. And so, and then he gave me an application and I kind of threw it away. And a couple months after that, I hurt my shoulder and said, well, I'm going to go see the chiropractor that everyone talks about in town. And so I went to go see him, and I sat back and just like watched him and listened to him pitch me to become a patient, which I didn't do. Because he didn't answer a couple questions that I thought were important. And I decided if he could do it, so could I, and I could do it better. And so I went home, you know, got an application, applied, and went to school and never looked back. And I had incredible mentors and teachers when I was in school, especially I always bring light to this guy. His name was oh, I can see him, Dr. Chappell, and he was my nutrition teacher. I was mesmerized by food and how food is medicine. And he was teaching that back then before it was ever really coined.
Hmm.
And, and my other two teachers that I always had a huge love for, and, I stalked them basically. And if they were teaching a course, I was there because I wanted to know what they knew. And
Right.
this one guy I had significant sensitivities to like the hops in beer. And I liked
Mhm.
beer, but anytime I drank it, I always got congested. His name was Dr. Victor Frank. And Dr. Victor Frank stopped those allergies and my reaction to smoke, cigarette smoke, because it
Mm.
would just make me
Yep.
immediately cry. And so fixed my gut, did that in a matter of 2 minutes. And I went out that night in a smoky, this is how long ago this was, in a smoky restaurant and had wine, had a beer and then had wine and had, it with absolutely no reaction, zero. And I've not ever had a reaction since then. I don't like it. I can smell it, at a distance, but I don't like it.
Hmm.
So, um, that was him. And then this other doctor, Dr. Scott Walker, who's in a lot, I believe he's still alive and he's in some in San Diego. Um, he, got me on stage and went through this process because we were doing emotional tracing and erasing of patterns that make you sick. And so I went, wow, I want to learn that, So out of 200 people there, he goes, I would need a volunteer. And my hand was like straight up in the air. And
Yeah.
he goes, you in the back, and so I went up on stage and we went through this process, and the value of this is that, what you think you have doesn't mean you have it. And
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
and so he's telling me, he goes, we're abandoned, and because it went right to my liver, right to my gallbladder, anger and resentment. Those are the emotions, even in Chinese medicine, that are tied with that.
Hmm.
And so he just like, he was, doing muscle testing with me. And I'm thinking, I just love this. And he goes, you're abandoned. I said, I don't think so. And I said, I could always ask my mother. And so as soon as we went on break, I called her up and said, you know, what I go, was I ever abandoned? And he picked the age, 2 years old. And I said, and she said, well, I don't think, no, I don't think so. My mother, I think you
Yeah.
think she would know so, right?
Yeah.
And but she said, you had pneumonia when you were 2 years old, and we took you to the hospital, and
Ah,
they kept you there for 2 weeks.
right.
And I'm going, oh, I wonder how I was ever felt like I was abandoned. But
Yeah.
that translated into my relationships, my
Yeah.
community,
Yeah.
how I reacted to things with my was then ex-husband, and then going, no wonder that stuff came up. you
Right.
know, and then so it was like reinforced when my parents got divorced because then I only saw my father on certain days, and so it's just like, again, that tug and pull and like feeding that, but those emotions and things that happen to you really lie very deep in your body.
Oh, yeah, they're
And,
stored in the
and
body, in the
yeah,
unconscious mind. Yes,
yeah,
totally agree. I talk about this. I was
yeah,
just actually on a networking event last night called the Breast Connection. And the Breast
mm,
Connection is all about helping women take preventative action in their breast health and also those that are going through breast
mm,
cancer or are now thrivers. And part of that conversation was the biggest toxin in the room is the
mm.
stuffed down and deeply stored emotions that need to be released.
Oh,
And
absolutely. And it's the holy grail in business, by the way, because if you can craft your message to take someone from pain to pleasure, and the marketing aspect of that, that is like, that's key to when you're
absolutely.
talking and to make change in people's lives that's long lasting.
Hmm.
And every time I've ever had a client that we went down that rabbit hole, we had, the results they got the results faster, they reached their goals faster, and they were able to go onto I have a concierge kind of maintenance package that I put people on so they can always stay in touch with me if they have
Right.
something coming up so that they have, first
Yes.
dibs and access to that. But
Yeah.
it's really interesting to see, like, this like, wow, I don't even like, God, I haven't thought about that in such a long time. Like, why? And think, why do you think that is? And so, those are always the pieces of the puzzle that, sometimes we don't always understand. But when they come together, it's so releasing
Yes.
that your health, your mind, which you
Hmm.
need both for everything,
Yes.
it just is exponential. It's wonderful.
Exactly. And like I said at the very beginning, we talk the same language because, I call myself the friendly toxin slayer, and I'm helping people to detox the physical body, but not just the physical body, the mental body, the
Mhm.
emotional body, the spiritual body, because we have four bodies. And by the time we have symptoms showing up in the physical body, it's already moved through all of the other bodies.
Yeah.
And so we
And
have to go
and
back and clear it in all of those bodies.
for sure. And it also goes to your weakest link. So knowing what your
Yes.
weakest link is, it's just like in my book, Why Are You Sick, Fat, and Tired? I know you're going to ask me about that some
Yes,
point in time,
I will.
but it shows you where your weakest links are. So if you know the emotion that goes with the weakest link, you can dive even deeper, and like, go to the target a lot faster without, a lot of, like cutting to the chase. I guess you
Hmm.
would, that cliche, cut to the
Hmm.
chase. Let's get to the point. What's the point? What's the end of the story? Which they always have a tendency to say in Boston.
Right.
Uh,
Yes, and it's so very true. And I love that you have, highlighted that and shown that to people in your book.
mhm.
And I love the title of your book, Why Are You Sick, Fat, and Tired? Because everybody's walking around wondering that same question, tired of feeling like they're dragging their ass and tired of trying to lose weight and not being successful. So I would love for you to share um, the reasons why people really get sick. The three T's, as you like to call them.
I do call them the three T's. First off, let's just say what health basically is. And Merriam-Webster's dictionary says that health is your organs functioning 100% of the time. And who back in the 40s, something like that, they defined health, that it was much more than just the absence of disease or
Yes.
infirmities, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
they had to say, and then 86, they upgraded their definition to include your environment.
Mm-hmm.
And like, wow, that was really, I always say that's when they were telling the truth.
Yes.
Um, and so when you take that to, you like, people are like, well, how do I piece that all together? And I made that into 5 pillars. And the 5 pillars I talk to and address are diet, nutrition, so that to have them as one component moving forward, the correct one or proper one. Proper exercise, proper sleep, positive mental attitude and positive mindset, and proper posture, because you have to have that inner strength and core strength in order to be really healthy. So what happens is that we have life. We have the first T, which is trauma. And trauma is things that that you do repetitiously. Like sometimes maybe some of your listeners have heard overuse syndrome. And that's doing the same thing over and over again. If you're turning left to the, or left to the right, or left to the right, and you're doing some type of job that does that sweeping, sitting on a couch in a particular way that you don't normally sit, all of a sudden you have these signs and symptoms. Well,
Right.
those signs and symptoms are inflammation. So the
Mm-hmm.
three T's have inflammation all in common. And so they're also like accidents, bumps. It's also childbirth. 9 out of 10 children who are born have some type of cervical damage in their neck from that process. And so, if it heals incorrectly, we all know that if you break a bone and it heals incorrectly, you're going to suffer for the rest of your life.
Right.
So it's like, and that's why you would see a chiropractor, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, someone who does pediatric
Right.
chiropractic,
Yeah.
after you have a child that's born. Second thing is toxins. It's from the air that you breathe, the water you drink, the food that you eat, the cleaning fluids that you use in your house,
Yep.
and the gardening items or ingredients that you have out for your garden. You
And
have
all
to
the
read
products
labels
you
and
put on your skin.
I didn't get there yet. And so, including, and everything, you have to read labels. You have to know your ingredients. And if you don't know how to say it, definitively look it up. That's a definite must for that particular item. But you want to know more than to be able to pronounce it or what it does. You want to know the side effects, and those side
Mhm.
effects are huge. And when you start collecting that list, you will start to think like, oh dear, you know, um, hmm, and you start staying away from things that don't make sense to you. Like, why does lemon juice, which you have to refrigerate anyway, suddenly have like sodium dioxide in it? And I don't remember what's the side effects of sodium dioxide right now off the top of my head, but they're easy to look up, and so you have that aspect of it. And then if you look at your skin being the largest organ in your body, 65% of what you put on your skin gets absorbed in your body. That's huge.
And in
And
just
so,
26 seconds too.
yeah, and very, 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 very quickly. So it's, picking items that really support your health. I'm working on a project right now with a woman where we're doing like facial rejuvenation. And so what she particularly does, and because we have an idea, is that because this is the exercise part, is to exercise your facial muscles. And so, but you want to have the right nutrients that support your skin being rejuvenated. So we're in that process. So she said, why do you think people have this stuff underneath their neck? And I said, because people sleep with more than one pillow. And so when you sleep with more than one pillow, it makes your head go down like this. And you know that when you're looking at a computer, you have a stand-up computer. So when you're looking at a computer, you're looking at, this is getting more relaxed. You sleep 8 hours a night, a third of your life. So your head's in that position a third of your life.
I'm
And
so glad
so,
I only use one pillow. I never knew that.
you know, but
I'm just not comfortable with two, so I choose one.
see, but the thing is, if you're sleeping on one side,
Mhm.
I always tell people, I say, if you can get used to like sliding your hand like up, so that it's like cupping. I'll do it on this
Mhm.
side. So it's like cupping. So my ear is in between this finger here and here, and just lightly, don't pull your skin, just slightly, just lay it on there so it has some place to go when you're sleeping in the event that you turn over on your side. If you make it into a habit, which takes anywhere from 18 days to 256 days, it's just having that mental memory and turning that, that it's a happy experience in the mammalian brain, which is our, part of our unconscious brain that works with the primitive brain that says, oh, you don't have to do, you're going to get old anyway. We just knock them off our shoulder, the primitive brain. So,
Yeah. We just don't listen to
but
them all the time. That's what I love to teach.
yeah. And so the third thing that makes you sick is
Mhm.
thoughts. And thoughts can
Mhm.
undo anything that you do up to 7 times, undo what you do to correct the trauma and to correct the toxins out of your life.
Mhm.
And so that's why, like even people ask me about air filters for their house, or what's I don't have the space or the money to do a whole house. What's a really good water filtration system, that you use, and I said, so for, in traveling, there's certain ones that, are out there and some of them are better. Some of them are just crap. And the other ones,
Right.
there are some of them that are a lot better in that. But I talked to two specific ones on my product page on my website. But and and I offer the discount to whoever is buying it. I don't get anything from that particular item being bought
Right.
because I would rather give that back to the universe and to people who need it, so that they can get what they need to have, so they can, can sleep better, feel better, move better, think better, and move forward in their life and keep on making those better decisions to get unstuck, and making sense of those so that, it's safer, quicker, simpler.
Well, I love that. Thank you for sharing, all of that information because it's just so important for people to know.
Hmm.
And I know there's a lot of people out there today that don't know this. And I know when, I used to be in the corporate world and when I got into health and wellness and I got into starting off with health coaching, that one of the first things I realized is I'm in my 40s. Why don't I know all of this stuff? Right. And I realized it's because
Yeah.
I had been busy building my career and being a mom and being a wife, and life is busy, right?
Hmm.
So I love that you've written the book because people can just pick up the book and start educating themselves. And
Hmm.
that's where we're at in this world now. We have a very similar mission because we both know that if people do start focusing on these 5 pillars that you've mentioned, that we can, put an end to much of the chronic illness that's in the world today. And
Well,
that
most chronic illness is self-induced, right? And
exactly,
it's just like
exactly,
by making poor lifestyle choices, and
exactly.
then, and then blaming whoever, for that. Like diabetes is a really good example, and a lot of people don't realize diabetes is directly connected to heart disease
Hmm.
and corrected, and 40% of people with diabetes, diagnosed with diabetes, the stat was 4 years ago, 40% of them would end up with Alzheimer's. So, it's just like, and it all starts in the gut. You got to go
It
to
absolutely does.
you've got to fix your gut to change your life. You got to at least take a look at it. I rarely have not seen, like maybe like 0.5% of the time, I rarely have seen the gut not involved.
Right.
And so
Yes.
the gut's always involved, and there's always something that you can do to support that. Um,
Absolutely. And I see that too. And sometimes I see it, with people that are wanting to run labs just for preventative purposes.
mhm,
And
for sure.
I would say I've only ever seen 2 people that have a really healthy, balanced gut. Everybody else, even when they think nothing's wrong,
Hmm.
there's signs of, imbalance and dysbiosis in the gut. And the great thing about running the labs when it at a preventative stage is now we're finding out early before they're
For sure.
having a lot of symptoms. And so then it's also much easier to bring the body back into balance
Hmm.
as well at that
Hmm.
point.
A lot less money. Do you know
Exactly.
the average person spends $19,000 out of pocket on diabetes,
And
and
is that
heart disease
annually?
is
Is that
that's
annually? Yeah.
I don't remember that particular stat, if it was annually or for the length of the disease, but a lot of people don't realize how costly it is, and that by making small investments, like it's like organic food's expensive, well, it's more expensive. It used to not be more expensive. It used to be what people used to eat all the time
Yes.
before Monsanto,
Yes.
and, came along, they started making, GMO seeds for things. And so, but there's a high cost to pay for your health. I mean, not only is it costly physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and socially, it's very costly financially,
Hmm.
for somebody, because, people like, they have their 401ks, they have all their financial stuff in place, and all of a sudden they get sick. I had a friend
Yeah.
who, I'm from LinkedIn, who was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. And he went through stem cell research. In 1 year, they spent $2 million. That's what
Wow.
the gross price tag was on his treatment to date when I spoke with him about a couple months ago. I was asked, just like, how much money have you spent? And he said he was tracking that, because he did stem cell, they're doing some stem cell thing with him that he responded to really well to, but he's got, and he doesn't wear a mask because he wants to keep his immune system,
Hmm.
it's just like, hey, if I'm around something that I'm not supposed to be around, like, he takes precaution, but, he isn't like purposely going to like, an influenza ward at a hospital. He wouldn't
Right.
do that. But,
Right.
doing his normal life, you've got to be able to respond your immune system in the normal environment. So but I just like him, hats off to him for being brave to do something that's not super well researched, but
Right.
he is now the spokesperson for the Multiple Myeloma Society.
That's awesome. And I'm glad to
Yeah,
hear that
yeah,
he's doing
yeah,
well. And it's
yep.
wonderful. However, how many people have $2 million that they can afford to do that? Right.
Well, he didn't
Whereas,
have there was insurance. That's what
oh,
the
okay,
insurance, what they
that's the
got, were
insurance
able
covered it.
to.
Okay. Do
There was
that.
some out of pocket, but I
Right.
mean, I said, what was the cost of treatment so
Right.
far? The
Yes. So
cost of
that's
treatment, and
the,
and also, the cost is so inflated. I mean, when people go
mhm.
in for those kinds of treatment, it's that it's super inflated. Like, what does it really cost? Pharmaceutical company sells it for, $4,000.
Right.
And then
Right.
the doctor has his office coverage, and he
Right.
has to have his malpractice taken care of. So now you're at $12,000 for like one round
Right.
of treatment.
Right.
Some people end up unfortunately, they have to end up all that money that they thought they were going to go have a good time on,
Mhm.
is being spent on their health when those little things they could have done beforehand could have potentially improved their immune system and improved their life and outcomes.
Exactly. Yeah. And people don't realize that 70% of their immune system is housed in their gut. So when we heal the gut, we're, boosting the health of the immune system. And
Absolutely.
the information that I've been sharing a lot lately after doing some research last year is that the average North American is spending 10 years in a nursing home at the end of their life. Well, once they're in the nursing home, they're not coming out, right? So
Hmm.
basically, they say we're living longer, but we're not living longer. We're dying slower.
Hmm.
And there's a huge cost to that. Right now, it's $108,000 a year. And that's not even your medical costs, that's just living costs. And by 2030, it's forecast to be $141,000 a year. That's only 7 years away, right? So the average person has over $1 million just in living costs in the nursing home at the end of their life. What if you could have those 10 years back and you didn't have that exorbitant cost because you invested now in your health and you have the energy and the mental capacity and feel wonderful and you can get out and travel and live your retirement dreams.
Hmm.
And
For
that's
sure.
what
That's
I
so
love to share with people to think about is stop taking your health for granted and not investing and just waiting to get sick and then expecting the doctor to fix you, but instead really see the value in investing in your health now and taking preventative action so that
Mhm.
you get all of the time that you want on this earth.
For sure, or at least it's the time you're supposed to. Everyone's got a
Exactly.
path, right? I always
Exactly.
say, I was talking to a woman today earlier, and we were talking about her mom, who's really close to me, where I'm at in Florida. And I said, "Oh my God, when you come down here," she's like, you and I, like when we like just we speak the same language,
Yeah.
and so she was telling me her mom was in a nursing home. So it's funny that you say that. You talk specifically to what that costs. They pay $8,000 a month
Hmm.
for her mother to be in a nursing home where
Right.
she's at in
And that
Florida.
doesn't include any of the medical costs because, of course, that's all very individual. That's just so
Yep.
$8,000 a month is what, $96,000 a year,
Yep.
right?
Right.
$100,000 a year.
Right.
So they're paying a little bit under the average. And then how long is her mom going to be there? So,
Right.
on that note, I want to go back. You were talking about environment
Uh,
earlier and the connection. So, I'd love for you to share a little bit more that link between diet, lifestyle, and environment.
well, it's just like when I talk about environment and that ecosystem, I'm looking at like all the aspects of the wheel. So I call sometimes it like, instead of saying the pieces of the puzzle, I'll say
Mhm.
the pieces of the wheel because
Right.
people can visualize that wheel going out and you can see like the diet portion of it. You can see, the all those pieces,
Mhm.
that you would want to put in there, like even in the Wheel of Life guide, and if somebody's interested in it, you can grab it on my website. And but what it does is it helps you pinpoint where you have issues at, and it looks at approximately 10 areas that are described in
Mhm.
your life. So like I would come to you and say like, wow, my like my family life is out of whack. That's stressful. And it looks at where you have your stresses. And that's
Right.
so someone who would come to us, we would go in and take a look at that whole ecosystem, to see, okay, well, you're okay over here. What can we do to make this better over there? So that environment part of it has got to be, part of the factoring that in to the diet, the exercise, the positive mental attitude, because those thoughts are what thinking those thoughts and starting your day off with a good thought can
Yes.
change your whole attitude. Or if
Absolutely.
you can change your mindset. It's just
Mhm.
like, wow, that was a bad mindset. That
Right.
was really bad behavior.
Yeah.
And so I can go back in, you know, and say to my, I go like, okay, I can change that immediately. You don't have
Mhm.
to wait, if you want
Yeah.
to have a different outcome, you don't have to wait till January 1st to do your New Year's resolutions
Right.
in order
Which
to
we
have an
know don't work
outcome.
anyway.
Well,
They don't
some of them
last.
do. Some people do, but the statistics on it is people already broke that agreement to themselves, by the 15th of January.
Right.
And by February 14th, most people are out of whack with that because they make goals that they can't achieve. They don't
Right.
make idealistic goals. They're not realistic and in order to move forward. So in looking at like, what can I really do? Then you can structure your life a little bit so that it can be unstructured, at the
Right.
same time. So you're
Yes.
not, you're in, I call it Einstein's time when you're like in your groove, what might be woo woo, in your vibe, whatever, so that you can keep moving forward. And it's just like, I just feel really good today. We
Right.
all have
You're
had
in
those
flow.
days that are
Yes.
like that. So when you're in flow, it's just like, go with it. But also take that emotion and snapshot it and put it in your mammalian brain as a great experience. Because if you're having a bad day, you can take 5 minutes and you can think about that great day that you had, and it will
Hmm.
trigger the same response because in the mammalian brain, it tells you how to behave. So if you can trigger that positive response again, you can have that same reaction that you just got done having. And that's why you do affirmations. And so the affirmations will tell the conscious brain, tells the mammalian brain, hey, you can do this, and it helps quell the lizard brain, or what I call the primitive brain, um, in the other regard too. So
Right.
having, you can have all the pieces of the puzzle because in your environment, you've got to be really aware of, things that you can do something about. Like you can't do anything about, the chemtrails. You can use your voice to voice your opinion that they shouldn't be there and you shouldn't be spraying barium, in the atmosphere and other
Hmm.
toxic chemicals that we're absolutely breathing,
Hmm.
and we're ingesting either in our food and also, in the air that we're breathing.
Yeah, I love all that you've shared. And our work is very similar and we come at it in different ways. And it just shows that, there are many different ways to help the body heal. And
Mhm.
such a huge piece of it is right here between our ears, right? So
Oh,
I
for
talk about
sure.
the unconscious mind, and the unconscious mind is all about imagination. And then
Hmm.
the mind doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality, which is why you can imagine and take yourself back to that amazing day and create that for yourself again, right?
Hmm. Yep,
And it's so
absolutely.
incredibly powerful. And like you said, if you have a thought that you don't like, you don't have to wait till January 1st to change it. You can change it immediately. And something that I share is just cancel, cancel, cancel. You say something that you don't want
Yeah,
your unconscious mind to take on or to believe, that cancel, 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 and say what you really want to say, right? Because
the
we get
Silva,
more of what
this
we focus on.
the Silva method.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, for me, it's I learned it through my NLP training, and it's
Oh,
so,
really?
yeah, so beneficial. So, I'd love for you also to share, if people are sick and don't know it, right? There's so many people out there, that are listening to this that could be in this boat. If they're sick and they don't know it, how do they know they have something going on? And you refer to it as the Grim Reaper syndrome.
I was just going to say that. And I refer to that as a Grim Reaper syndrome because we have a lot of signs and symptoms. Our body always is giving us clues about how we're doing and how we're adapting, and as a species, if we don't adapt, we'll become extinct. It happens to a lot of other species. We're no different. So the Grim Reaper syndrome is like, having symptoms like floaters in your
Mhm.
eye. Like you didn't have
Mhm.
them. A lot of people don't have them until a certain age. And
Right.
then they start to have them. And in Chinese medicine, if they're clear, it relates back to the liver and the liver
Mhm.
meridian. If they're dark, then it relates to the kidney meridian. So,
Mhm.
the eyes give you clues. So we have all these clues that are happening that if we pay attention to them, then we can say like, well, I have this going on. I have ringing in my ears, like unexplained ringing in my ears. It doesn't stop. So where's that from? And why do you have it? If it's high pitch, it's either liver or kidney, or if it's low pitch, it's liver or kidney, depending upon what it sounds like, and the such. So the Chinese have been doing this since the 6th century BC. So, and they certainly have honed down through the years specific ways to address certain signs and symptoms in the body. And so, and then also tag them as to where to find the root cause of those so that you know where to go with that. So for instance, you could have muscle pain and, or ligament pain. You're thinking like, God, I can just remember my biochemistry teacher, Dr. Lors, when I was in chiropractic school, the first day he said, from the muscle to the liver and from the liver to the muscle, and I just thought, I'm never going to pass this class. I couldn't understand him. I mean, I learned to listen to his accent. I was just thinking, I was going like, oh my God. But in knowing how your body functions, and some of those signs and symptoms that we have, like Chinese people will always ask you about your bowel movements and about
Mhm.
how many times you pee and what color it is. So does Western medicine doctors, but they don't give the significance that Chinese medicine does to it. So if you have, an issue, like if they're because for instance, in the feces is supposed to be a specific shape, basically a color range, in order to be considered healthy. Because you have to eat the foods that you're eating,
Mhm.
and that goes through your body. And
Yeah.
if you have injured your intestinal tract for some reason because you ate so much, crappy food, from fast food and such, over a period of time, or from another reason, from taking meds,
Hmm.
um, and or constantly being stressed out, because if you ever try to eat, like digest your food after you had an argument with somebody, you end up probably staying, tossing and turning all night long.
Right.
And so, and if you don't get enough sleep and if you don't drink enough water, there's a whole slew of things, like if you don't put the food part of it together, and you don't move enough into the day, though all those things add up to an issue. But when you have leaky gut, for instance, which means that the one layer of cells have a break in one place to the next cell to it, which is called a tight junction, then that opens up, and the food that you're eating that's supposed to get digested in a specific place with specific cofactors and enzymes gets into your blood system a lot sooner, and then it will travel over to the blood, always gets synthesized and cleaned out in the liver, because that's what the liver does as a function. And so when it's there, it wants to get rid of those toxins. It does not want to store them. So if it happens the right way, then it goes into your intestinal tract to go in the toilet, or it goes to the kidneys, to the bladder, and out the body. And so one of the things is that, in looking at that cycle, when that gets broken, if it keeps on happening again and again and again, your liver gets tired.
Yeah.
And so when it gets tired from doing that, it stores those toxins in blood, brain, bone, and fat. And when it stores it in blood, brain, bone, and fat, it will accumulate in your weakest link, which is the reason why the book Why Are You Sick, Fat, and Tired comes up, is so then you can find out where the weakest link is in your organ system. And so the fat part you basically can know by looking in the mirror, even though
Yeah.
the better way to measure that is by doing body composition. And then second, is like the tired, if you're tired. I mean, but people push and punch through that. They go, I can do it. I only got 2 more hours. I can do another 20 more messages in LinkedIn, and do that kind of thing. But you don't know if you're sick, because sick takes time to develop,
Yes. Yes,
right?
exactly.
And so when you start having those symptoms, you got to find out, where is my weakest link, in order for you to foster it and to, elevate the function of that particular organ system. Because the 11 organ systems that are in our bodies are like a cogwheel, like on a Swiss watch. If it starts to slow down one place, it slows down someplace else.
Right.
So we talk about like not having that awareness about things, and that Grim Reaper syndrome, all those signs and symptoms that we have, you should start paying attention to. And then definitely not ask your friend or your mother whether or not she had that when she was that age. Because they don't
Exactly.
know. Because people
And
go,
we're all
oh,
different.
oh, yeah.
And we're
And
all
it's
different.
Yep. And they're like, oh, I had that. It goes away. Don't worry about it. And then all of a sudden you realize that, it didn't go away,
Right.
and
Because
now,
the health
now
of
it's a
your gut is different to the
right.
health of that person's gut.
It's very individualized, and that's why
Yes.
what I do is I approach, and you do too. Each person that you deal with that's a client, any person that you're trying to help is very individualistic. It's very personalized.
Yes.
I can't take what I would do with you and then do it to everyone who's listening here.
Right.
The basic stuff very, very basic stuff like what's a protein, what's a
Right.
carbohydrate,
Right.
and what's a fat, and
Or
some
even the
examples of those.
process you follow may start
Hmm.
off very similar
Right.
initially
Yeah.
until you get to the understanding of the root cause for that individual. And then from there, it becomes very
Then you focus it,
individualized.
and it's like a iceberg, so you take
Yes.
that top off, and then the bottom part of the iceberg starts to come up. So you might see signs and symptoms that are from there, but you've got to pay attention to those signs and symptoms. And so for people, for instance, when they go to their medical doctor and they only have 15 minutes, you have to really be really clear when you walk in there. So if he starts asking you how your dog is or how your kids are, and it's just like, it's great that he's trying to be friendly, but you really want to focus on your 15 minutes for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and then ask and organize your questions, and if the doctor seems to be a little intimidating, then you just write them out and just say, I need you to answer these in the order that I gave them. And do you mind if I
Right.
record it?
Right. Yes.
You know,
That's a good
it,
point.
it,
Because do you
yeah,
mind if I record it? Yes.
yeah,
I know
because
here locally that people are limited to asking one question per doctor visit because there's no
are you
time.
kidding me?
One question. And so often, though, the answer of the first question triggers another question. And so it's really unfair
Right,
if you're truly held to only asking one question. And I think really what they mean by that is if you have multiple things going on, you can really only come in and ask questions about the one thing, right?
or what's most important to you at that
Exactly.
at that moment,
Exactly.
and so
Exactly.
that you can come in for each one of those things, which would create a different diagnosis for every one of them, which would mean they would get more money.
There's that too. Yes.
That,
There's
that's,
that too.
I see that as, patient, building patient stats up, you
Right.
know, and
Exactly.
your inline bottom, the inline financial number there.
And so I love everything that you've shared. And, ultimately what we both believe is helping people to come to the realization that they can be empowered in their health, that they don't have to wait to get sick and then go to the doctor expecting the doctor to make them better. That's putting a lot of responsibility on the doctor. They can take action now in order to take responsibility for their health. And when people realize that their health truly is their greatest asset, then that's when they will start taking action, because they do take action for the car. The moment that, engine light comes on, they're looking to understand what's wrong with my car and how do I get it fixed. And even if it costs a lot of money, they find the money to fix it. It's that
Right.
same attitude that we
Hmm.
need to give to our health. And, through the years, our medical system has made us become a little bit lackadaisical and taking our health for granted. And really where we're at in the world today is we need to shift that and make sure that your health is your highest priority, even more so than your car. And so, on
Right.
that note, what are 5 lifestyle solutions that anyone can implement to improve their health immediately?
One thing that they can do is they can commit to themselves
Mm-hmm.
like they do for, whatever is their highest desire in life. Like I need a relationship, I want to be married, I want to have kids, it's just like give it the same energy and commit to yourself. And also learn to trust yourself more.
Yes.
The second thing is self-care,
Mm-hmm.
and taking a little, like just a little sip in the bathroom and look in the mirror and stand there and look into your own eyes, because the heart houses the mind houses spirit and soul, and the eyes are the windows to it. So the way to get into your soul, an easy way, is just look into the mirror every day. A positive thing you can do is you can say, I love you,
Mm-hmm.
and mean it. A
Yes.
third thing you could do is hydrate, and hydration is important for all those 5 pillars that I spoke about. You need it for everything, and you need it to help the brain detoxify. So you need it. It's essential to hydrate. And if you don't like water, you can always drink it out of the straw because you can drink more of it. And the ratio of water for body weight is 50% of your body weight in ounces. Um, the fourth thing you can do is move.
Mm-hmm.
If and my second patient ever when I first started in the student clinic was a 92-year-old woman who came in to see me because her granddaughter got such great results. And so when her granddaughter got great results, she wanted to finish an Afghan. And I asked her what she did for exercise, and she said that she takes her Dixie cup out and she goes into the backyard, and she waters her plants. I said, well, how many plants do you have? I thought she was going to say 20. She goes, 150. She was I went to school in Atlanta, Georgia, so had a
Yeah.
beautiful Southern accent,
Yeah.
and so that's how, so she took like one out, like, it's just like 1, 2, and now things that she did, because a lot of times we don't think that what we do during the daytime is exercise.
Right.
But it is exercise,
Yes.
but we also have to tell our brain that we're exercising when
Yes.
we're doing it, because your brain's powerful. You're like, oh, that's just a normal thing for you to do. I'm not going to help you burn more calories then doing
Right.
that. And so, and the last thing is, get enough sleep,
Yes.
and set the stage for sleep. Get your room dark, the best temperature that they say about doing that, is around 68 degrees. If you have to wear a mask, wear a mask if you're light sensitive, and make sure that your bed supports you and you're only sleeping on one pillow.
Yes.
And um and so and then that way you'll have a lot more support. You have a second pillow for underneath your knees, because that'll put you more at ergonomic rest, and that perfection. And the last thing is, that I would highly recommend, it's a bonus one, is to hire a coach or mentor to get you where you want to go, because you'll get there a lot faster,
Mhm.
and ultimately be a lot less money than if you like wait until you have a crisis. Like, don't wait for a crisis. It's not really smart. It's not a good thing. And it's incredibly costly, not just because of the financial part that I mentioned before, but there's so many other components to that. So if you want to get someplace, faster, you know, it's just like we're available. And I would love, I'd love to help, your clients are, I love you for to help, my clients out, for those particular needs, because I don't do hypnosis, or any of in that aspect. So I think it would be a good compliment.
Wonderful. And I love how you said that, don't wait for a crisis, because of course, this podcast is called Don't Wait for Your Wake Up Call.
Mhm.
And I love to ask all of my guests, what does that mean to you? And you've just answered a little bit in terms of giving advice, but what does it mean to you?
Well, to me, it means to do less like when you get up in the morning, if you say you're going to make your bed, unless you have dogs. And that might be like, that might not be the best example. But if you're doing things, within your day, do them. If you see them, like, there's no better time than the present. So if you want to like go on a diet, just do it. Don't talk about it. Just do it. Show me. It's just like, don't say you're sorry, just fix it. Just, and because when you say you're sorry, you give that energy away. So if you just, and so that's kind of what it means to me. It's just like you mess up an appointment, just say, oh my God, I messed up an appointment. How can I make it up to you? It's such an easier way, and it doesn't take your energy. It doesn't take
Mhm.
up mental space. You
Mhm.
don't dwell over it.
Yeah.
If you can't fix something, then you don't fix it. It's just like you're going to have to just figure it out to move forward with that.
Right.
And I
Yeah,
think when we do that, especially women, when we do that, we create a lot more freedom for ourselves and a lot more space to be even better, and like better and better than we were ever before. And so,
absolutely.
right?
Because,
And I'd love to see women do that a lot more.
yeah, no, I agree fully, because we get to keep moving forward with that
Hmm.
approach as opposed to getting stuck. And the
Hmm.
more we get stuck, the more we bog things down, the more we bog things down, the less room we have for what we really want.
Right.
So
And then
I
you
love
attract
that.
those same people who do that. So if you want to have a
Exactly.
better life, always look for somebody who's got something, whatever it is that you want, that they have handled down, because a lot of people will help you take that ride also in that path and get you to where you need to go. So that's what it means to me. So it's like,
I love
because I
it.
love,
Well,
because I love to help people. I love to see people thrive. I like to make massive
yes,
differences.
love it.
It's just like, oh my God, look at you. You look what you just did. And I always love the look on someone's face. And I know that you work virtually also, when they get it. Like
Yes,
every once in a while, like, wow, that's why and they tie
exactly.
it together. It's just like, it thrills me. It's like having a child graduate with all A's.
Yes. Love it. Love it. Yes, we're very much aligned. So, you have a free gift for the audience. Please share about your free gift, which is the complimentary health assessment. And then also let people know how they can get hold of you, which I will, of course, put in the show notes, but you can go ahead and share that here too.
Well, one thing that we can do, on here in the complimentary health assessment, that if people take out their cell phones, they can text 26786. And when you text 267, you put that number in, what you text is lifestyle. And that will give you a lot of information about me. in case you need to know a little bit more information about me. The second thing, to get the health assessment, you want to type in MDQ, like metabolic detoxification questionnaire. But it's an assessment that tells you how you're handling toxins in your environment, and it tells you how your gut's doing. It's the first chapter of my book. So it's an easy thing to get those answers. And if you need to have better explanation of those answers, I'm more than happy to help support you so that you can understand them better. But the idea is to have low numbers. And you'll see, because the forms are right there, and you'll see what those numbers are.
I love it.
And
So yeah, all of that's in the show
yeah.
notes. Thank you very much. And I encourage people to go because it's so helpful to know this information, right? And start understanding your body, where you're at, instead of sticking your head in the sand. Because once you know where you're at, then you can make choices about how to improve the situation for yourself. And
Mhm.
that is what preventative health is all about. So I absolutely love it. And so I know you said that people can text to find out more about you. And then I've also included all of your contact information in the show notes here as
Yep, with
well.
Right. So if for some reason, if that text does not work in
Mhm,
Canada, or
mhm.
if you're out of the country, and that, you can also just find me on healthteamnetwork.com. And and that will be in your show notes anyway. But that's another venue for you to get this basically the same information, and also find out a little bit more about me too.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you. And my very last question is just, do you have any last tip before we round out this podcast that you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, I think when you feed your mind the right things, and that includes food also, then and that you're to achieve peace of mind on a daily basis, you need to meditate. You know, take a quiet time. It doesn't have to be like quote unquote meditation. It could be, like listening to music for 20
Mhm.
minutes. That's in a specific hertz level. And it could be, taking a walk, or, taking a break. Honor yourself the most, but have that one, wake up more productive. You can, which you can find on my website also. It's a small article that I wrote, and tips for that. When you want to do that, just like you can, there's certain things that you can do every day as a ritual, not as a habit, because the habits become rituals. And then what you can do is, then you keep on doing them over and over again until you don't have to even think about it. You can go
Yes.
in your sleep and do whatever you need to do.
Exactly. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Dr. Pat. I really enjoyed this conversation. And to all of the listeners, thank you for being here as well, and being great followers of the Don't Wait for Your Wake Up Call podcast. And if any of this episode resonated with you, or you know someone who needs to hear it, please do share it. And we'll be back again next week with another fabulous guest to interview. Are you a practitioner or a coach listening to this? If so, I would love to ask you, do you use hypnotherapy in your practice working with clients? And if not, would you like to? The power of hypnotherapy is limitless. And so often we experience our clients struggling to reach their goals. It's because they're coming up against their own brick walls and getting stuck. But you can help them through the power of hypnosis break through all of that, working with their unconscious mind to put the suggestions in, to have them taking the action to achieve the results that they want. They are thrilled with your coaching techniques. They're getting the results they want. You feel amazing because you are helping your client get the results they want. It's a win win. And another win is that it's an added revenue stream for you in your business. So if you like the feel of helping your clients get the results they want, if you like the sound of that, then definitely reach out, Melissa at yourguidedhealthjourney.com, or click the Linktree link below for my Unlimited Power of Hypnosis class to learn more. It's a weekend designation program that I teach, valid in 42 countries. You write an exam after taking the experiential course, and you can be admitted to the American Board of Hypnotherapy and start using hypnotherapy one-to-one with your clients and have them achieving the results they want. If you're enjoying my content and someone that wants to step into being proactive in your health and learning more, I would love to invite you to join my membership community. There's a link in the show notes. For only $19.99 a month, you get access to all of my content, and there's a lot, as well as weekly calls that you can come and get your health questions answered. It's truly priceless. I'd love to see you join the community. Check out the link in the show notes.